Episode 3 of 30 Coins was titled The Mirror. Elena and Paco learn the ancient origins of a book and a haunting reflection of a local couple's mirror. When Father Vergara spends the night investigating the mirror's trickery, he risks getting swept into a deadly portal. Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with my weekly recap, breakdown, and review of the latest episode of HBO's 30 Coins. Today, we are discussing episode 3, which was titled The Mirror, and this was definitely Alice in Wonderland meets Alice through the Looking Glass meets Oculus type of episode. I'm so excited to break it all down, but before we dive into it, as you can see on the screen now, make sure you're following me on all my other social media accounts. That way, if you ever want to suggest a review, if you ever want to collab, or just talk movie and TV news, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and all those links are in the description below. If you are new to the channel, welcome to this community. Consider subscribing, and while you're at it, hit that notification bell. That way you can get the alert from when I drop new content. It would mean a lot to me if you all can like and share this review. It helps out the channel, but I also appreciate all the support. And in the comments, we have to discuss episode 3, The Mirror. I want to know your thoughts, your theories, your pros, your cons. What do we think of the Gospel of Judas? What do we think this coin that Elena threw in that dam will end up? And are there other tunnels, other mirrors across the world that his imminence can cross over to? Let's discuss it all in the comments below. So just my initial thoughts coming off of episode 3. This show is so fantastic. I'm so invested in the show and the characters and the storyline. Each episode gets better than the last. I love this mirror Oculus episode. I love the idea behind the Gospel of Judith and the people that worship Judith and all the stuff that we'll talk about in this review. And who knows where that coin's going to end up after Elena threw it in a dam. It's just so much to go over, so much great stuff. My favorite character is Elena. I love Paco as well, but Elena is just, I just love her just wittiness and just her intelligence in this episode and throughout all 3 episodes thus far. She's great. Paco's great. The show is great. I really enjoyed this episode. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comments. So let's get into this recap. As we open up the episode, we yet again get this person as a vessel who's under this possession of his imminence. And we see this person breaks into, well, not breaks, but he's led into the jewelry store and he violently kills one of the jeweler employees as he rips his throat out, as he takes the coin. And it's very interesting, and also too, as he walks out of New York City, no one's stopping him because he has a gun in his hand. Number one, is also covered in blood. I thought that was interesting, but nonetheless, the big thing I took away from this opening scene is this is the second time that we've seen someone wearing this necklace, and it seems that they're just using their body as a vessel to do their dirty deeds to find these coins. But if we look at the first episode, the heist, the bank heist, the coin was in the possession of a bank. We see in this episode, it's in the possession of a jewelry store. So it's very interesting that the 2 coins that we've gotten so far, besides Elena's coin out there, they've been in places where people have their greed, their possessions, right? We're in a bank where we know bank and how people hold their money, how they value money, how money can get the greed out of you. We see that this possession of the coin is in a jeweler store, which is surrounded by jewelry. Again, the prized possession of jewelry and how people treat jewelry as a sign of like power and a sign of being rich. So it's really interesting that these coins are found in these places of greed nonetheless. So very interesting thing to observe there. But as we kind of move forward, we're introduced to the main, I don't want to say MacGuffin, but the main kind of obstacle course. We're introduced to the mirror in a sense of Thomas. We have a wedding. He's delivering the cake. He gets into an accident because, as we learn later in the episode, the mirror shows you your dark secrets, shows you your fears. He gets into the car accident, and this is where Elena and Paco get into the mix. They see that this couple has this possession above their pharmacy, and it hasn't been, this place hasn't been occupied for more than 50 years, which I was thinking to myself, how has no one come across this? But then they explain that it's been vacant for the last 50 years, which is, sure, it's hard to believe that maybe no one's ever used this mirror before. But nonetheless, we get introduced in the mirror. We see Paco calls the one and only Ghostbuster his partner in crime. That is Elena again. I thought Elena was fantastic in this episode, and I love that they are now kind of relying on each other of all these supernatural supernatural things that are taking place in their town. We see Elena goes to the mirror. Her and Paco, they see that there is a book that's reflecting on the mirror, and this is where we learn a big bit of information in this episode. And that book that they find is the Gospel of Judith. And we learn within this episode, and again, this is for some, people that are very religious might not like where the show's kind of leaning towards in this whole Judith idea, but we learn the Gospel of Judas is essentially his version of the Bible. It's essentially his truth of what happened, of the betrayal of Jesus Christ. So in this moment here, we learn from the priest telling Paco about the origins of what really went down when Jesus was betrayed. So we learn that Judas sacrificed himself in order to be this ultimate saint, that he knew what was going to happen. He was told to betray Jesus Christ, and that there are followers that know the truth about what really happened of all the stuff that went down and how Jesus was caught and how he was hung on the cross, and that Judas was a part of this. And then we go into this even deeper explanation as the Father is telling to Paco about why evil exists. And this is where the show just, to me, is like, oh, this is so rich. This is like backstory. This is lore. This is mythology. This makes the world building so much rich. So as he's talking to Paco, he talks about the difference between a man who cannot tell the difference between good and evil is a free man, and being free comes at a high cost. So they get into the conversation about, well, why do kids die? Why is there people that don't have food? Why is there injustices? Why is there crime? It's because the evil and the good balance each other out. We need evil to have good. Again, not to get all religious and all that stuff. Again, I respect people that have their opinions. I'm just on the show, enjoying the ride of the show and not, taking it more than what it is. But that's a lot of deep stuff, man, that evil is necessary for good to exist. Again, this is just building lore. And again, I'm pretty sure that there is some type of mythology, some type of belief behind this type of conversation that they're having within this show. So I'm loving all the world building. But as we move forward, we see that the Father comes up with this idea that he wants to observe the mirror overnight. We see Paco installs, cameras throughout the house so he can see what's going on. And this is where the show is just so great to me. As we get the world building, we get the thriller aspect, the killing aspects, the scary aspects, but they sprinkle in some good jokes. They sprinkle in some comedy as we see Paco is looking at his phone while the priest is there, and him and Elena are conversating with each other, and his wife thinks he's watching porn. I thought that was funny in that whole conversation, but also Elena talking about this, watching the priest staying overnight is like better than I think it was HSN. It's just like little jokes like that just bring some levity to the show and just lightens up the dark mood, because we got a lot of dark stuff in this show. But as we move forward, we see that the priest does fall asleep, and his dark version, the mirror version of himself, appears in front of him. And we see Elena has left the coin at her clinic, where we see the dogs are wilding out and bleeding and going crazy over this coin. We fast forward as they show the Father the footage of him staying overnight, and he sees, which I guess it was interesting that I always assumed that this supernatural, you wouldn't be able to see, you can see it with your natural eye, but you wouldn't be able to record a sighting like that. But they were able to show the Father the recording of this evil version of him looking in the mirror, and they notice that there's a person in the bathroom, and that person is the same person that the priest performed the exorcism on many years ago that got him kicked out of Rome. So very interesting moments there, as we also find out that the mirror reflects your fears, as again Elena points out, the best character on the show for me. Moving forward, we see Antonio talking to Elena about what he hears when he's sleeping from the people in Rome, and this is where he warns Elena about everything that's maybe to come, and to be cautious of her footsteps and things of that nature. But Antonio, can we trust him? Again, we have to remember what he said to the people in Rome last week, that he's going to maybe work his way into the situation and get on their side so he can possess that coin. So I don't know if he's being manipulated. Can we trust Antonio? If this is all a hoax and he's just trying to work his way into their goodwill, let me know your thoughts on him in the comments. As we move forward, we see that a priest tries to destroy the mirror, but his darker side keeps him from doing so. And we see him talking to to the mirror as the mirror evil version of him tells Elena and Paco to get out of the room, which they do. And this was a really cool moment. By the way, I have to give a quick shout out to the cinematographer. The way that they captured the mirror and how we as the audience saw the mirror, but then when they see the mirror, they see other things. And the way they just kind of shot that was just really well done. I thought the execution of this episode was just flawless in my opinion. But as we see the evil version of the priest speaking to himself, he brings the kid up that died in the exorcism. He acts like he can't hear the priest. He gets closer to the mirror. They drag him in. They bring him into the Alice Wonderland through the looking glass. He's on the other side of the mirror now. And as I kind of expected, the evil version of him steps out of the mirror and they swap spots. So now moving forward, this is when we kind of learn of the power of the 30 rings as the evil version of the priest tells Elena and Paco the strength of these 30 coins, and they're more powerful than the Ark of the Covenant. So once you possess these 30 coins, there's no stopping you. You're going to be a world destroyer. You're going to be commanding the world, having everyone at the feet of your orders. So move forward. The evil priest convinces Elena and Paco to give him the coin. They do so. He follows them. They kind of get into a conversation. Elena, again, being the smart character that she is, she realizes that this isn't the same priest that she knows. This is the dark version. This is the mirror version of him. Pushes him down, locks himself in the clinic. But it's at this point, again, where we see the power of his eminence and the influence that he has as this evil version of the priest is able to literally, I don't want to say mind control, but possess the cop in town, the lead police officer. He's able to possess the whole town. He's possessing the dog. So again, the strength of his eminence, it is kind of weird that all the powers that the eminence possesses, that they haven't just been able to get the coin. They haven't been able to possess Elena. They haven't been able just to get one person to break into Elena's house, torture her, and get the coin. It is kind of convenient that they haven't used that yet. Again, if they did that, then we wouldn't have a show. But nonetheless, we see the power that they possess. So moving forward, this was a nice kind of callback to the beginning of the episode. We see that the evil priest now has the whole town in his church. And if we go back to the beginning of the episode where Emmanuel was having a sermon and no one was there, but now we flip the tables and we see that the whole town is there because they're under this possession. And it was really kind of a nice little tie-in in the writing in regards to how people flock to churches and how they listen to the word, whether it's good or bad, they just take it all in. So it's a nice little way to kind of tie in the religious aspect and everything about this show. Leave it to my favorite character, Elena, as they stack her clinic. They can't find the coin. They're at the pharmacy with the mirror. Elena takes the Gospel of Judas, breaks the mirror. They go through the mirror. Another great visual as I am to assume that there are other mirrors across the world that his eminence can cross through. I don't know if we'll get another appearance of a mirror. I don't know if this is another way for us to get to him, but we see this kind of, again, Alice in Wonderland through the looking glass type of visual when they're in this palace. They stumble upon the priest. We see his eminence is going to, cut the throat of our version of the priest or cut his head off. But we see that Elena and Paco save the priest. They're able to escape the wherever they are, the Alice Wonderland through the looking glass area. As they walk out, they notice that everything's boarded up. And at this point, the evil version of the priest, who now is having the town under his influence, the spell, the possession is now broken. And I assume that version, the evil version of the priest, goes back to the looking area, to the looking glass. Is he still out there? I was kind of confused about that because as he touches Paco's wife's face, is she still under the possession? Is she still under his influence? It was kind of confusing. Let me know what you all took that scene as. Is that evil priest still out there? Is he now summoned back to his world because they boarded off the mirror? Let me know your thoughts there. But nonetheless, we transition to kind of wrapping up the episode. We see Elena and Paco are back at the hospital. Paco talks to Antonio about the ball's in your court. You have to puncture the ball to get control of what's going on. Again, I don't know what we can take of Antonio, if we can trust him or if he's an evil person, if he's still under the influence. But nonetheless, we end the episode on seeing Elena throwing the coin into the dam. End of the episode. Where will this coin end up? Who will find this coin? Will they have to go back to find it? Because, you know, we now know that they can possess anyone at any point, any time. So it'll be really interesting to see where that coin is. But some things to keep in mind, again, is that evil priest still out there. We still have the baby creature still out there. We also still know that Elena's husband's still out there somewhere. So it'll be really interesting to see all that come into play in the coming weeks. So again, this episode had a lot of big reveals. The Gospel of Judith, the followers that believe in the true story of what happened between Jesus Christ and Judith, and that there is necessary evil to obtain, to have good exist. All that stuff is great world building. The information, again, is Antonio a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Is he in the middle? Is he a great character? Very interesting to see what happens there. And again, who's going to end up with that coin that Elena threw in the dam? Very, very, very interesting stuff going on, and I can't wait to see what happens next. So those are my thoughts. I enjoyed this episode. I love this episode. Again, each episode gets better. I love the world building. I love all the stuff that we're getting with the backstory, and I love these characters. Elena and Paco, they're great characters, and I can't wait to see what comes next week. So let me know what you all thought of episode 3, titled The Mirrors, your pros, your cons, your theories. Again, I know that this show in Spain and in the UK overseas, I believe they're on episode 7. So if you've seen the episode 4, don't spoil it. But if you're like me and watching this for the very first time, let me know your thoughts, your theories in the comments below. As always, make sure to like this video, share this video, leave your thoughts in the comment section, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you don't miss any of my other reviews for this show. Dickinson season 2 of Servant. We have WandaVision. I have a bunch of movie reviews, so definitely hit the bell so you don't miss any of that content. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Hope you're staying safe, and we'll see you all on the next video.